Right-hand batsman, exulting flair in his approach and a gun fielder. He stamped his presence at the top of the order in the late 1980s and the early 1990s. At inter-school level, he was a sensation to watch. With that wonderful promise, it was no surprise that he climbed the ladder of success and was adjudged the Observer Schoolboy Cricketer of the Year for 2 years in succession, in 1983 and 1984. He best remains remembered for his 576 run stand with Sanat Jayasuriya against India in 1997 at Colombo. His contribution of 225 runs in taking Sri Lanka to 952 is sure to go down as one of the popular stories in the cricketing circles of Sri Lankan folklore. Despite making the switch to the middle order towards the latter part of his career, his contribution to the side remained vital, as exemplified by the key role played in the march to become world champions in 1996. Few cricketers have the opportunity, or rather the ability, to get themselves a second innings to be intricately involved with the game. ROSHAN Mahanama remains one such rare breed. A dashing opening batsman for Sri Lanka, and then a much revered match referee for approximately similar durations. Over a decade, he remained one of the most sought after in the business, finding himself in the elite panel of referees who have officiated in over 300 games. A product of Nalanda College and a role model to many budding young cricketers. One of the greatest fielders the cricket world has witnessed. And one of the greatest cricketing sons Sri Lanka ever produced. A true ambassador of the gentleman's game. ROSHAN Siriwardana Mahanama.
Biggest ambassadors of the sport of cricket and the finest gentleman in the sport as well, Mr. ROSHAN Mahanama's My Innings retired hurt to the best view of the game. We'd like to start off by playing the national anthem of Sri Lanka, Please Rise.
Sri Lanka Mata, Upper Sri Lanka, Namo, 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 Namo Mata. Sundara Siri Marini, Surani Ati Sobamana Lanka. Bhagya Balaya Lekamal Palakuru Pili Jaya Bhumi Ara.
Up next, to deliver the keynote address, I'd like to invite the following eminent personality on stage. He is the Managing Director and the Chief Executive Officer of Hatton National Bank PLC, one of Sri Lanka's largest private sector banks. And he counts for over 35 years of banking experience, having served several international banks, including the National Bank of Abu Dhabi, Saudi British Bank Riyadh, the British Bank of the Middle East, and HSBC Dubai and Colombo, before taking on the reins at HNB. He served on many boards with the HNB Group as well as the banking industry, and is a director of the Sri Lanka's Banks Association and was its chairman from 2014 to 2018. He was elected as the chairman of Asian Bankers Association, a position he held for 2 years, and is currently a member of its board of directors. A dynamic banker and a corporate leader, he has contributed vastly to HNB's macro development, with the bank now operating through 225 customer centers. Under his leadership, HNB underwent a transformational journey in every sphere of the business, particularly in the digital evolution plus customer centricity, with the bank being recognized and awarded by international and local institutions for setting new benchmarks in the Sri Lankan banking industry. He is none other than Mr. Jonathan Ullis, the Managing Director and the Chief Executive Officer of Hatton National Bank PLC. Over to you, sir.
Good evening to everyone. I'm delighted to be here this evening. So I'm very grateful for Roshan's gracious invitation to me on this very august event where he's launching his second book, Retired Hurt, for the best view of the game. I'm not going to steal your thunder in terms of the book. There are a couple of reviews, and I'm as eager as you waiting to hear those reviews. And Roshan has been very kind in giving me a book as well, which I promise to read during the next couple of weeks. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm truly honored and humbled to be here and to be able to say a few words. Very, very pleased to see Auntie right there. I mean, today my memory goes back to maybe 4.5 decades or more when, the intensity of her itself was enough, let alone Roshan and his team was quite a daunting task, along with basically, obviously, someone I miss today is Uncle Upali, whom I used to actually encounter and meet even at the corporate level. And you wouldn't believe one of the last occasions I met him was actually in Saudi Arabia, where he had come to do some work while I was working at HSBC. And I just don't want, lovely to see Mr. Nelson Mendes. Obviously, I remember him mostly in his white flannels. He was more ready to take on the green than we were probably at that time. And then thanks to him, both Nalanda and Sri Lanka has benefited so much in terms of, disciplined cricketers who have been produced both at Nalanda as well as for the country. As no better example I can give than, my good school day friend and, long friend for almost half a century, Mr. Roshan Mahanama. Like I said, my mind goes back 4.5 decades. I was just telling him, we were in that fortunate batch of, creating, probably a legacy that we were in the first under 11 batch. Until then, it was under 12, 14, 16, 18, and then they, as somebody from above wanted it, brought it to 11, 13, 15, 17. So I was very fortunate in grade 4 to, start playing, leather ball cricket and all, which was quite a challenge. And that group was a fantastic group. If you take whether it was Roshan, Asanga was at DS, Roshan Jurampati was there. There was, many, Hashan Tilakaratna was at DS and a few others. There was more than a handful who actually represented Sri Lanka, and I'm sure I'm missing a few names there. So whilst many from that under-11 batch went on to play, for Sri Lanka, there were some others who ended up becoming bankers in order to, open accounts for these cricketers and get their deposits to make sure that they save some money for the country as well. So since then, St. Joseph's, where I come from, and my team and I have been following Roshan's progress as he grew and became this absolutely wonderful, great batsman, and as so very well put in the video, one of the greatest cricketers from that time, one of the greatest fielders that were produced, and something that has been, overlooked and often underestimated, a very good captain. He was a motivating captain who could talk even at that stage, and talk his three, because I have played a bit with Roshan, had the blessings and was fortunate to play in combined schools at under 16 and at under 19, and I used to see how he actually got things going, and it didn't matter that we came from 10 different schools. So I can imagine the intensity if you were in that same school or if you were in the national team under, playing with Roshan. So that culminated with the pinnacle of, as the video said, one of the rare achievements of, becoming Schoolboy Cricketer of the Year twice in 83, 84 for, the tremendous achievements that he had, over his schooling career. I think playing Test cricket was a tough baptism. In terms of, I just remember those first few matches facing Imran, Waka, Wasim, and, getting peppered in the ribs and the hip and the thigh, and, still the typical courage that he had to, bat on, despite, opening was not the most familiar position for him at that stage, and you go straight into national level and you open against maybe easily the finest attack in the world at that time, and you were probably the best number 3 at that time, but going into open was no mean task. Then obviously the prowess in Sri Lanka's 902 for 7, of which a double century from Roshan set the stage for that. I mean, many records were broken in that 575-run partnership, and something that I'll always cherish. And it was really, emotional when basically, you lost Sanat and Kalu in the first over, and then Aravind batted really well, whilst, Guru Singh kind of held on till he made that 66, gave us some chance. Then Roshan anchored the innings with his half century, got us to 250, and then what emerged later after Tendulkar got out was, a bit of a chaotic situation in Eden Gardens, and I thought that was great how that victory helped us to, the momentum was in our favor. With that win, because beating India in India was huge, and I thought we were the home team in Pakistan because of the support we got, and that was another great experience to watch. So many achievements over the maybe 1.5 decades almost of playing for Sri Lanka, that then culminated and then transformed into taking a different view, which is what probably this book is all about. Though the first book was titled Retired Hurt, I'm very sure that he has gone past all of those, and now he has actually fully mended, and he's moved on to, far greater things in life, which he sees from a very different perspective, and that's that perspective that we want to, read in the book, as well as maybe hear from Ashan. And I also saw, a name, Mr. Andrew, who might be talking about it as well. Again, an unblemished record in the elite panel of cricket referees, right? No controversy. I mean, as clean as his cricket was, so was his refereeing and clinical, and I'm sure it brought a different dimension to Roshan in addition to giving a different perspective to him as well in terms of how he read the game at that particular stage. And then moving on from there, today, not that he was not charitable then, I know right along he was, I mean, what I also remember, in addition to being charitable, this I have to say, he had his own swagger, right? I mean, when he actually came in, with his walk and all that, with the bag, with the dragging the bat, it could have intimidated, and it did, most sides. Already he had scored about 30, 40 runs just walking into the crease, and he had to actually bat as if he has already warmed up. He's seen the ball because of, absolutely the greatest swagger walk in cricket, walking to the crease as well as on the field. You don't get that, and he still probably has that, and it's probably the most natural as well. There is nothing put on in that. But in that, I think there was absolutely, maybe when we were small and immature, we might have seen it kind of slightly differently, and maybe we didn't approach him as much as we, approach him now. But amidst all that, you see that humility that, comes in, so much so that today he's just transformed, where he has this passion on philanthropy, and he sort of helps his hometown temples. He helps schools far out of Colombo in the rural. He is brand ambassador for SOS. That's where I meet him sometimes, because we try to do some work with the SOS village. In addition, he is a proponent, a campaigner, and an ambassador for breast cancer awareness, and he probably is an initiator of the Wednesday pink dress, which in order to, heighten the awareness of breast cancer. And for him to take up that role shows his passion that, he brings into life in different spheres, as long as it adds value to our Sri Lankan brethren. And then he's also moved on to being an extremely inspirational speaker, a motivational speaker. He really talks and, gets people excited, and he has done this at HNB also once or twice. So that's where I think, whilst a lot is written about, Roshan's batting from 1 to 9, and therefore Sri Lanka maybe didn't get to see the best of him. You could have, had a little more stability. Having him in one place, Sri Lanka would have got far more runs from him. What I see slightly differently is that, where we missed the trick is that he should have captained Sri Lanka. He is a person who actually captained from 10 years to 20 years, right? And leadership, whether in a team, whether it's cricket or any other sport, or in a company or an institution, is about having the best leader lead the team. You don't need to be the best at a particular specialization, or you don't need to be the best batsman or bowler or, fielder to be the best captain. You need to be good at captaining. You need to be able to lead, motivate, get the best out of your players or your company. And that's what Roshan did, and had a proven track record of that. So the other side of it is by bringing maybe specialists. You see it today, you saw it a few years back. Maybe those specialist batsmen, bowlers or fielders would have been better off actually doing their specialized role, right? And they would have probably even done even better than what they've done. And, world-class, trailblazers that they were, could have even reached greater heights if you had somebody, at all times. And I continue to say this going into the future as well, whether in the corporate world or whether in the sporting world, always have the best leader captain. That is so important, because, you don't, then you get the best intelligence, you get the best team working, all aligned for the best results for whether it's the country or whether for that organization. I can go on and on. if you probably give me the entire hour, I'll still keep talking about Roshan. But in order to conclude, I like to leave a message to all youngsters, budding cricketers, as well as the youth of Sri Lanka. There are a lot of bad examples around, right? And we, for convenience, and we want excuses, for us to sort of not move the needle or, push a button, we cite those examples. My dear children, my dear sports cricketers, budding cricketers, and the youth of Sri Lanka, there are lots of good examples as well in Sri Lanka. And here is a classic example in the form of a Mr. ROSHAN MAHANAMA, a cricketer par excellence, gentleman, and a humble person to the core, who has not compromised on his principles. I would have liked to have seen a book also written on, ROSHAN MAHANAMA playing with a straight bat, because that's what he does even now, right? And he has not compromised. There's nothing political about it. He has not taken any advantage of his cricket in order to get into any other forms of activities, nor roles that could have come to him as well. He has been very, very selective, and the terms should have been, there should be any strings attached to whatever that it has to be. It's the passion that he wanted to bring through, and that I truly admire. And whilst a lot of cricketers who learn a lot on the green field are truly, good examples and gentlemen, we also know of examples of people who have digressed a little bit, and compromised. And that's not something, genuine sportsmen who learn their passion on the green should be. So, my dear youngsters, here is a great example for you to look up to. Here is an example that you can learn a lot from, and this is what you need to motivate yourself and inspire to be as you grow, to be somebody in the likes of Mr. ROSHAN MAHANAMA. Let me also now once again thank Roshan for inviting me once again. I want to wish him all success in all that he does, all his future endeavors, his lovely family, and all his loved ones. And in addition, I want to wish all of you present here today a fantastic evening. Thank you very much, everyone.
Hi, Rosh. Really sorry I can't be with you here for the relaunch of Retired Hurt, the sequel. There's been so much more in your life after your playing days which must be told. I certainly will look forward to reading it myself, along with many more others around the world. The obvious memories that spring to mind is your time with the ICC as a match referee. I can tell you that whenever I learnt that you were appointed to our series from time to time, I was very happy. And I can also tell you that the players also were very comfortable with you. Your very fair application of the rules and the code of conduct was very much appreciated. I could go on for much more, but I won't, Rosh. I'll leave you now by saying all the very best for this relaunch, and I know it'll be a bestseller. All the very best to you. Take care, look forward to seeing you soon, mate. Bye for now.
I was fortunate enough to captain a cricket team who gave their best, and they were all team players. Roshan was one of the major pillars in the 1996 team. I saw Roshan from his younger days when he was playing for Nalanda, when I was playing for Ananda. I played a lot of cricket with Roshan's brother Devaka, but I had the greatest opportunity to play with Roshan for a longer time in the national side. He always gave his best, never looked at his personal records, and I wanted to wish Roshan all the best on his book launch and a great future.
My friendship with Roshan goes back a long way. I remember the time we used to play cricket and rugby on the streets of Sirimalvina Ratmalana. Him being a very, very competitive sportsman, we've had a lot of rivalries at school level and club level playing cricket. But I must say, through those rivalries, we built a friendship which had lasted for a long, long time. And on this very special day, Roshan, I would like to wish you all the very best and all success in your future endeavors. Thank you.
Hello everyone. When Roshan called me and asked me to send a short message about his second book launch, I was very, very thrilled, and I was honored that he actually called and asked me. We have been friends for over 40 years, and I was very lucky to be in Melbourne when he launched his first book, which is Retired Hurt. And he called me actually up to the podium and presented a signed copy to me personally, which was I cherish so much, and I still have the book with me. I've read it a few times, which was a fantastic read. When he started talking about the second book, I realized it's going to be much better than the first one, because this particular book is not only about his playing days, this is about being a match referee and his whole cricket career and his whole life. Rosh as a person has achieved so much on and off the field. Lately he's so involved in so much of charity work, which is a noble thing he's doing. And as his best mate, I just want to say good luck, enjoy the evening, and Rosh, I'm hoping you will send me a signed copy to whether it's Nigeria or Australia, one of those places. I'm waiting for it, I'm waiting to read it, and I hope everyone will go ahead and enjoy the book, because I can say this will be a fantastic book to read. Good luck.
It's such exciting news that Roshan has updated his autobiography. I've written, edited or published, more than 60 books on cricket, and Retired Hurt, this book was one of the very best. I loved in particular the 1996 World Cup. Talk about a David and Goliath act by Roshan and all the Sri Lankans to be able to defeat the Australians on the biggest stage of all. I do wish him all the very, very best with this update. Roshan didn't have the shots of Naravinda or the bravado of Arjuna, but there's been few finer ambassadors for cricket in the last 20 or 30 years. Roshi, all the very, very best with this book.
It was an honor when Roshan asked me to say a few words about his new book, the second one, My Innings, Roshan Mahanama. I think when I selected to the team, my first tour, he was my first roommate, and I've learned a lot from him. A few things he's always emphasized was discipline, integrity, values and ethics, and I think those are very good things for you to build your career, build your character. So I think Roshan, I just wanted to wish you all the very best with your book, and hope that it will add a lot of value to everyone to understand what is right and what is wrong, and that's something that you've always told us. That's the most important thing in life. So just wanted to wish you in this occasion and all the very best, and congratulations.
It gives me great pleasure, and it's a privilege indeed to take this opportunity to wish Mr. Roshan Mahanama all the very best at the launch of his second book, Retired Hurt, to the best view of the game. And I'm sure this book will contain many interesting insights and valuable lessons for cricketers of all ages. Roshan Iyer, with his exploits on the cricketing field and as part of the 1996 World Cup winning side, inspired a whole generation of cricketers, including myself, to think beyond what we earlier thought was possible as cricketers. He is a man of conviction, a man of strong and high moral values, a man of integrity, a man we all admire. All the best, Roshan Iyer, with your book. You have so much to offer cricket all around the world, but especially here in Sri Lanka, and I look forward to that contribution. All the best.
Up next to address you all is the sporting icon and the legend himself, which all of you know and needs no introduction. Nevertheless, I would be failing in my duties if I did not sort of give you an insight into his multifaceted career over the decades. ROSHAN Mahanama was the former captain and member of the 1996 World Cup winning Sri Lanka cricket team and is widely renowned as a brilliant batsman and a fielder in the history of cricket and is more ardently admired as one of the truest gentlemen in the gentleman's game. His record-breaking partnership of 576 runs still stands as the highest partnership for the second wicket in Test match cricket, beating the former record held by Australian legends Sir Don Bradman and Bill Ponsford. It is also the longest standing partnership in Test match history, lasting for over 2 full days and 1 hour. Roshan's achievements are anchored to his remarkable school cricket career, where he had the honour of being the first schoolboy cricketer to have won the Schoolboy Cricketer of the Year award in 2 consecutive years, namely in 1983 and 1984. He is a former elite panel match referee for the International Cricket Council and a former member of the Sri Lanka Cricket Interim Committee. Roshan was also the head coach of the Sri Lanka A team and was an ICC specialised coach for Bangladesh on the Asia Development Coaching Programs and also coached a couple of cricket clubs in Australia. Roshan is a Cricket Australia Level 2 certified coach. Over the years, Roshan has actively maintained a strong media presence as an expert cricket commentator for the British Broadcasting Corporation, which all of us know as BBC, and Sony Entertainment Television, which is Set Max, for several cricket tournaments. At present, Roshan is involved with cricket as a freelance match referee for a number of international cricket leagues and tournaments. He has officiated the Indian Premier League, known as the IPL, from 2010 to 2016, the Pakistan Super League, the PSL, from 2016 to 2019, the Masters Champions League of the UAE, the MCL, in 2016, and the T10 Cricket League of the UAE, the TCL, from 2017 to 2019. His inspirational career and contribution to cricket was recognised by the traditional custodians of the game and the owners of London's prestigious Lord's Cricket Ground, the Marylebone Cricket Club, who awarded him an honorary life membership to the highly respected institution, widely renowned as the home of cricket. He also was awarded the national colours for excelling in his chosen sport and the national honour of Deshabandhu, conferred by the President of Sri Lanka for meritorious service to the motherland in the field of sports, as well as his philanthropic initiatives that have made significant changes to the people of Sri Lanka. In addition to his professional endeavours, Roshan has continued to engage and drive a variety of high-impactful philanthropic initiatives that take up most of his post-retirement focus and effort. He was a Goodwill Sports Ambassador of the World Health Organization to Asia and is a brand ambassador to many other charity organizations that drive the community development, including the Hemas Outreach Foundation, SOS Children's Village Sri Lanka, the Ayathi Center of Excellence for Children with Disabilities, the Arya Welfare Foundation for the Armed Forces of Sri Lanka, and the Mituru Mituro movement to support the prevention of drug addiction across the country. As a person with a wealth of experience and knowledge in sports and social skills with an overreaching objective to make a positive impact in society, Roshan conducts motivational speeches to corporates, students, and other target groups, both locally and internationally, mainly under the subjects of motivation, teamwork, leadership, and building values and principle-centric lifestyles, and he currently serves on the boards of a few limited liability companies. Certainly a profile worth reading. Over to you, Mr. Mahanama.
My first coach, Mr. Nelson Mendes, Mr. Jonathan Alice, the keynote speaker, well-wishers, family, friends, ladies and gentlemen. My father was my idol, my hero, and role model. A man I looked up to and tried to emulate. Years ago, when I voiced my reluctance to deliver speeches, my father, in his typical no-nonsense style, pointed out that this was an obligation I could not refuse. Reminiscent of the many times he has stepped in to ease my worries, he suggested I begin all my speeches with this simple phrase, and as a tribute to him, I have decided to do so whenever I have to address a gathering. I am at ease at the crease than saying my piece on occasions like these. I'm extremely happy to be here this evening to launch the updated edition of my book, Retired Hurt to the Best View of the Game, with Ken Peace and ROSHAN Pires. Although brevity is the soul of wit, I'm obliged to share a few thoughts with you on this occasion. Many cricket lovers have often asked me as to why I retired prematurely from international cricket, first as a player and then as a match referee. My autobiography, Retired Hurt to the Best View of the Game, tells the full story. My story starts from the time I was a little boy to what I'm engaged in now. Although I was initially a number 3 batsman, I made my test debut against Pakistan in 1986 as an opener. However, since 1995, for various reasons, I was forced to bat in a number of different positions. This was a tough proposition in terms of adjusting the technique and approach to meet the varying demands. But I did my duty by my team and my country. This naturally affected my individual performances, which sadly led to my premature retirement. Another question which I'm often asked, how did little Sri Lanka become world champions in 1996? My book deals with this question in detail. Winning the World Cup and emerging as the world champions in 1996 is the happiest moment in my cricket career. We went for this World Cup brimming with confidence, although we were clearly the underdogs throughout. There are many other factors which paved the way for our victory. A strong factor was the Australian tour in 1995-96, prior to the World Cup. This was the most controversial tour of my entire career as a player. When I went to Australia to release my book, Retired Hurt, in 2001, a single line from my recollection of that tour sparked off a great controversy. Looking back, I'm at times surprised what I was able to overcome, to also achieve. Never did I imagine I would be involved in close to 600 international matches, more than 250 as a player, over 300 games as an ICC Elite Panel match referee, and more than 220 franchise league matches as a match referee. Of course, I had planned to stay in touch with the game I passionately loved. It is with this intention that I completed the courses on coaching with the idea of building up a career to help the next generation of players. But my second innings as a match referee for the ICC proved to be equally or more fulfilling. I believe my long tenure with the ICC was a reflection of the trust they placed in me and a recognition of my honesty and integrity. But it was no easy ride. I certainly had many challenges and hurdles to overcome, as everyone thought that Mr. Ranjan Madugalle got me the job. At that point, not one but two former Sri Lankan cricketers were part of the ICC's elite panel of 7 match referees. It raised quite a few eyebrows and cast a shadow over my abilities. Many were the times when umpires would call me Ranjan instead of Roshan. Since I was on a part-time contract for the first 2 years, I waited patiently, learning the ropes and then applying them. When the ICC gave me a full-time contract, I made a reference to this rather popular saying, "You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink." On this memorable occasion, I wish to make a firm statement to the distinguished guests present here and everyone following the program on social media. Since my early childhood, I have been greatly influenced by high standards of conduct and behavior instilled in me by my parents and my first coach, Mr. Nelson Mendes. I wish to categorically state that retired Hurt, to the best view of the game, is an honest recollection of the fond memories and experiences that I have gained over the years. Treat this as the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Totally, absolutely, and 100%. Often, the truth is unpalatable, but it is an immutable law of life. In conclusion, I will be failing in my duty if I did not mention the very special people who helped me to get this version of the book off the ground. My heartfelt gratitude goes out to Jonathan for readily agreeing to deliver the keynote address and speaking about the good old rivalry that we had whilst playing for our respective schools, and also the kind sentiments expressed. You said sometimes when I walked in, or before I walked in, I had scored 30 runs the way I approached the center. But I must tell you, if we didn't do that, I would have been in trouble when I got back to the dressing room. That has been the advice that has been given to me by Mr. Mendes. So we had to follow the advice. I think we followed the advice to the very words that he was able to give us. My friend Rajitha Fernando for speaking to Captain Elmer Jayawardena, and to Captain Jayawardena for introducing me to Darshana Publishers. Mr. Darshana Ralapanava for his creative inputs in developing the attractive cover, formatting the book, and all the assistance offered to get the book out on time. Mr. Sanjeeva Jayavira, Mr. Ranjan Mellava, Mr. Dinet Vijay Sirivardhana for patiently reading and correcting the drafts. Our youngest daughter, Ruinya, for not only reading the drafts, but she helped me throughout the entire process and until the completion of this version of the book. Mr. Asoka Gunatilaka for translating the book into Sinhala. Andrew Fidel Edwards and Callum Srimal for agreeing to do a review of the book. Everyone who readily agreed to contribute forwards and testimonials for the book. My son-in-law Kalindu Lianage for coordinating with the printing of the book, the launch of the book, and also strategizing the marketing of the book. Buddhini Seniviratna and Haridu Vijayasinghe for planning and launching this event. Dasuni, the MC for today's event, all you wonderful friends for adding color to this function. Everyone joining us virtually and the members of the media who were present at the media briefing that we had prior to the start of this event. Thank you all. The initial book was a result of a tireless effort of a great cricket lover and his charming wife, my dear friends, David and Kathy Cruz. David conceived the idea, chartered the course, and we successfully launched the first book in Australia in 2001. 2 decades have passed since then, and words cannot express my feelings. Thank you, David and Kathy. The information given by me was initially transformed into a powerful story by one of Australia's eminent writers, Ken Pease. Thank you, Ken, for helping me to publish my first book, Retired Herd. When I was looking for a publisher, it was suggested that I should also write about my involvement with the game after my retirement as a player, rather than only reprinting the original book. Although I had many options, I wanted to work with this young man, Ashan Piris. I met Ashan a few years ago at an event that was organized by the Cinnamon Grand Hotel. Over a drink after the event, when the topic of my book came up, Ashan mentioned that he would be more than happy to write the next chapters of my book. My first impression of Ashan left such a strong mark that I quickly sought him out when the plan for the second book was conceived. Not only did he write my story post my retirement as a player, he also made certain changes to the initial book to suit the current context. Although he used his valuable time and energy, he did all this free of charge. Ashan, thank you very much for your kind gesture and this commitment. I really appreciate. Ladies and gentlemen, please give him a round of applause. A special thank you to my father for suggesting the title of the book, Retired Hurt, and all the support he offered several years ago to get my first book off the ground. To my first coach, Mr. Nelson Mendes, my dear mother, my loving wife and kids, I have no words to thank all of you for being there for me at all times. May the noble triple gem bless all of you. Finally, writing this book was not a commercial exercise, as I only wanted to share my life story and values I live by. Therefore, I have decided that after the cost of publishing is covered, the remaining revenue generated through the sale of the book will go towards supporting the less privileged and the charities that I support. I will not steal the punch of my book by commenting on the reasons for my premature retirement as a cricketer and also for stepping down as an ICC elite panel match referee. You can read all about it in my autobiography, Retired Hurt, To the Best View of the Game with Ken Pease and Ashan Piris. Distinguished invitees, everyone following this program on social media, ladies and gentlemen, this is my story. You shall be the judge and the jury. May all of you be blessed. Teruan Saranai.
Thank you, Mr. Roshan, for those impactful words. Up next is a book review and testimonial by well-known journalist Callum Srimal. Now, he is a well-known sports journalist and sports commentator with over decades of experience in sports broadcasting. He has sent in his testimonial via video, so let's take a look.
සුබ දවසක්. ප්‍රිය ක්‍රීඩා ප්‍රේමී මිත්‍ර මිත්‍රයිනි. අද මම මේ පොතක් ගැන කතා කරන්න යන්නේ. රොෂාන් මහනාම තම ජීවිතේ පොතක් කරලා. රොෂාන් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ ක්‍රිකට් වංශ කතාවේ මහානාමයක්. අපි ඒක කවුරුත් දන්නවා. අමුතුවෙන් ඕව හඳුන්වා දෙන්න අවශ්‍ය නැහැ. හැබැයි අර්ජුන සහ අරවින්ද ඒකම සනත් ජයසූරියගෙන් ඔහු වැහිලා හිටියයි කියලායි මට හිතෙන්නේ. මොකද අර පෞරුෂ ප්‍රතිරූප බවට පත් වුණා සියලු දෙනාම වැඩිපුර බහුතරයකට කතා බහට ලක් වෙච්ච චරිත බවට පත් වෙච්ච නිසා. හැබැයි මහානාමත් ඒ ගොඩේ හිටිය බව අපි කවුරුත් දන්න කාරණයක්. ඒ නිසානේ හැමතිස්සෙම ඔහු මතක් කරන්නේ ඔහුගේ නම කියු සැනින් අපිට බොහෝ දේවල් අපේ චිත්තාභ්‍යන්තරයේ රූපමය වශයෙන් මැවෙන්නේ. එතකොට එහෙම වැහිලා තිබුණත් ඔහුගේ ක්‍රීඩාශීලීත්වය, සටන්කාමීත්වය, කැපකිරීම සහජයෙන් උප්පත්තීන් ගෙන හපන්කම් බව අපි කවුරුත් අපිට පේනුණා පැහැදිලිවම එහෙම වෙනම එක්කෙනෙක් එයා කියන එක. කෙසේ වෙතත් මේ සහජයෙන් ගෙනාපු දේවල් වලින් ඔහුට මිදෙන්න බැරි වුණා. ඒ නිසා තමයි උපංගෙයිදීම පිත්ත සහ පන්දුව කෙරෙහි කාන්දමක් වගේ ඇදිලා ගිහිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ. මේ පොතේ සඳහන් වන පරිද්දට. ඔහුගේ ජීවිතේ ලියලා තියෙන්නේ. ඉතින් ඒ පොතෙහි අඩංගු කරුණුත් එක්ක අපිට මොනවද ලබාගත හැකි විශේෂයෙන්ම තරුණ ක්‍රීඩකයන්ට, ලාබාල ක්‍රීඩකයන්ට මේ ක්‍රිකට් පිටියට අපි දන්නෝ සමහරු උත්පත්තියෙන්ම රොෂාන් වගේ ගේන දරුවෝ ඉන්නවා. ඒගොල්ලන්ට මේ පිත්ත අල්ලන විදිහවත්, පන්දු අල්ලන විදිහවත් කියලා දීලා නොවේ සමහර වෙලාවට ඔවුන් ඊටමත්ම නිවැරදිව බැටිං ස්ටාන්ස් එකේ ඉන්නවා. බෝලිං ස්ටාන්ස් එකේ ඉන්නවා. ඉතින් ඒක ඇත්තටම මේ ජන්ම දායාදයක්. එතකොට වෙන මොනවද කරන්න ගියත් දන්නේම නැතුව ආපහු ක්‍රිකට් පැත්තට ඉබේම යොමු වෙනවා. ඒ නිසා මම කිව්වේ ඒ වගේ දරුවන්ව ඔවුන් ගෙන සහජ හැකියාවෙන් මුදව ගන්න අමාරුයි. බෝල ගහන්න කැමති ලදරුවෙක් ක්‍රිකට් අංකුරයක් වගේ පැලවෙලා ක්‍රිකට් වෘත්තිකයෙක් වන තෙක් මහා රූස්ස රුකක් බවට පත්වන තෙක් ඒ පිළිබඳ ඒ අන්දම ඒ ආපු ගමන තමයි මේ පොතේ රොෂාන් සටහන් කරලා තියෙන්නේ. මේක මේ රොෂාන්ගේ කතාව. ඒ කියන්නේ ඔහු මහානාමගේ කතාව. රොෂාන් මහානාම ස්වයං චරිතාපදානය. සිංහලෙන් ඒ වගේම ඉංග්‍රීසියෙන් පොත් දෙකක් තියෙනවා. සිංහලෙන් මුලින් රොෂාන් ලියාගෙන ගිහිල්ලා තියෙනවා. ඊට පස්සේ අපේ ඉංග්‍රීසි පරිවර්තකයා මේ පොතේ අපේ රටේ සම්මානලාභී ක්‍රීඩා සාහිත්‍යදාර ජ්‍යෙෂ්ඨ මුද්‍රිත මාධ්‍යවේදී අපේ හිතාතර වැඩිහිටි මිත්‍රයා අශෝක ගුණතිලකගේ. මා දන්න විදිහට රොෂාන් මහා තමයි අපි ආදරයට කියන්නේ රොෂාන් මහා කියලා. රොෂාන් මහා තමයි තමන්ගේ ක්‍රිකට් දිවියේ ප්‍රමුඛතම ඔහු තමයි පළමුවෙනි තමන්ගේ ක්‍රිකට් ජීවිතේ ග්‍රන්ථාරූඪ කරේ ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ. කියන්නේ ප්‍රසිද්ධිය ප්‍රකට අවස්ථාව. ඒක තමයි මේ වේදනාත්මක සමුගැනීම. හිත රිදලා ක්‍රීඩාවෙන් විශ්‍රාම ගන්න ගත්ත තීරණයට හා බැඳිලා ලියපු කතාවක් ඒක. කොහොම වුණත් ඊට පස්සේ තමයි මේ සුපිරි ක්‍රිකට් තරු වංශ කතා ආවේ ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ. ඔහු තමයි මේක මේ මෝස්තරයක් හැටියට ප්‍රකට කළේ, නිකන් ප්‍රසිද්ධියට පත් කළේ. හැබැයි අර වේදනාවත් එක්ක අපි කතාවක් අහලා තියෙනවා, සාමාන්‍ය මටත් එක්ක සිද්ධ වෙන දෙයක්. වේදනාවටපත් වුණාම හොඳ ගීත ලිව හැකියි. ඒ කියන්නේ විරහ ගීත ලිව හැකියි, ආදරය පිළිබඳව ලිව හැකියි. ඒක ඉතිහාසයේ අපි කොටසක් උපුටා දක්වනවා නම් ප්‍රේමකීර්ති දල්විස් කියන ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨ ගීත රචකයා ඔහුට යම්කිසි හේකින් හිත රිදවීමක් කම්පනයක් ඇති වුණොත් ඔහු වහාම කාමරයට ගිහිල්ලා එක්සස් පොතක් පිරෙන්න ගීත රචනා කරනවා. ඉතින් එවැනි අත්දැකීමක් තමයි අර වේදනාත්මක සමුගැනීම කියලා. සමහර වෙලාවට ඒකේ තිබුණෙම ඉකිබිදීම් සහ ඔහුට වෙච්ච අසාධාරණකම්, ඒ වගේ ඒ කියන්නේ ඔහුව කප්පාදුට ලක් වෙච්ච අවස්ථා, ඒ වයින් හිත රිදිච්ච පශ්චාත්තාපයන් කියලා මට හිතෙනවා මම ඒ පොත එලි දැක්වීමෙත් එතන හිටපු නිසා. කොහොමද රොෂාන් සිරිවර්ධන මහානාම ශ්‍රී ලංකා ජාතික රාමුවේ ක්‍රීඩා කරපු කාලය 1988 ඉඳන් 1998 වෙනකන් 1984 එයා ඇවිල්ලා බලන් ඉන්නවා බංකුවේ. තමහට අවස්ථාවක් ශ්‍රී ලංකා ජාතික කණ්ඩායමේ ලැබෙනකන්. එතකොට අවුරුදු 10ක් ඔහු ශ්‍රී ලංකාවට ක්‍රීඩා කළා. එතකොට ටෙස්ට් තරග 52ක්, එක්දින තරග 213ක්. කියන්නේ ශ්‍රී ලංකාව වෙනුවෙන් අපේ රට වෙනුවෙන් තරග 265කට ඔහු දායක වෙලා තිනවා. එතකොට අපේ රට වෙනුවෙන් මහා ලකුණු 7738ක් ගහලා තිනවා. ඒක ලේසි නෑ. ඔහුගේ උපරිම ලකුණු සංඛ්‍යාව 225ක් ටෙස්ට් තරගවල, 119ක් ගහනවා නොදෙවි එක්දින තරගවල. එතකොට ශතක 4ක් තියෙනවා ටෙස්ට් පිටියේ, එක්දින පිටියේ ශතක 4ක් තියෙනවා. ඒතර ශතක 8යි. ඒ වගේම මා ඔහුව දකින්නේ අර දුන්නකින් විදින හීයක් වගේ. අති විශිෂ්ටම පන්දුරක් ඉන්නා. ඒ වගේ පන්දුරක් ඉන්න එක මගේ විචාර දිවියේ මම තාම දැකලා නැහැ. ඔබට කියන්න පුළුවන් ජොන්ටි රෝඩ්ස් ඉන්නවා. ඒ හා සමාන ටීඑම් ඩිල්ෂා. ඒ මට්ටමට ඒ දෙන්නටත් වැඩිය මට නම් හොඳම පන්දුරක් ඉන්න රොෂාන්. මොකද ඔහු ඒ කියන්නේ සංඛ්‍යාත්මකව කිව්වොත් ශ්‍රී ලංකාව වෙනුවෙන් ඔය අවුරුදු 10 දී උඩ පන්දු 165ක් අල්ලලා තියෙනවා. ඔය 165න් මම විශ්වාස කරනවා ඇත්තටම සමහර ඒවා උඩ පන්දු නෙමෙයි, උඩ පන්දු බවට පත් කරගත්ත ඒවා. මොකද ඔහු ඒ පන්දුව කරා යන්නේ හරියට මේ හමින් බර්ඩ් කෙනෙක් වගේ, පැණි කුරුල්ලෙක් වගේ තමයි මේ අර රොන් පොදක් වීසි වෙනකොට ඉගිල්ලලා ගිහිල්ලා ඒ රොන් පොද දැහ ගන්න කුරුල්ලෙක් වගේ තමයි ඔහු සමහර උඩ පන්දු රැග් ගත්තේ. ලෝක ටෙස්ට් ක්‍රිකට් පිටියේ හොඳම දෙවෙනි විකට්ටුවේ සබන්තාව 576 සමාවෙන්න. සනත් ජයසූරියත් එක්ක ඔබට මතක ඇති ලකුණු 340ක් සන ලබා ගත්ත එකේ ඒ 1997 ආර් ප්‍රේමදාස පිටියේ 1996 ලෝකශූර ඊට පෙර අතවර 1997 ඒ 576 වාර්තාගත සබන්තාව සංඝ සහ මහේල බිඳ දානකම් 2006 වෙනකම් බල පැවැත්තුණා. කොමුණත් එහෙම වෙද්දි තාම රොෂාන්ගේ නම ඒ වාර්තා අතර කියවෙනවා. මොකද ශ්‍රී ලංකාව ගැන සඳහන් කරනකොට අනිවාර්යෙන් ඒ වාර්තාව, ඒ සබඳතාව ගැන අනිවාර්යෙන් අපිට කතා කරන්න සිද්ධ වෙනවනේ. ඒක තමයි ඇත්ත తත්වය. 1996 ලෝකශූර ශ්‍රී ලංකා කණ්ඩායම නැතුවම බැරි සගෙක් බවට උපත් වෙනවා. ඒ නිසා මේ පොතේ ඔහු ලියලා තිනවා මේ අත්විඳීම් දෙකම. ඒක වත්මන් පරම්පරාවට දිගු ඉනිම් සහ කෙටි ඉනිම් ක්‍රීඩා කළ යුතු විදිහ ගැන හොඳ අවබෝධයක් ලබාගත හැකි අත්පොතක් හැටියට තමයි මම මේක දකින්නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ එක්දින තරග සහ ටෙස්ට් තරග වලදී තමා කොහොමද ඒ සඳහා තමාගේ දක්ෂතාව ගලපගන්නේ. තමා ආදේශ වන්නේ. තමා කොහොමද ඒ දක්ෂතාවන් ඒ අවස්ථාවන් සඳහා ආදේශ කරන්නේ. ඒ ඔස්සේ ලැබෙන ප්‍රතිඵල තමා පෞද්ගලිකව ලබන ප්‍රතිඵල, රට ලබන ප්‍රතිඵලත් එක්ක විශාල ආඩම්බරයක් සහ අර කෝටියකටවත් ගන්න බැරි ආත්ම තෘප්තියක් ඔහු විඳලා තියෙන බව තමයි මේකේ සඳහන් වන්නේ. ඉතින් මේක කියවුවාම ඇත්තටම මම අර කිව්වේ මේ කුඩා දරුවන්ට අතිශය වැදගත් කියලා හොඳ පැහැදිලි අවබෝධයක් ලබාගත හැකි තමන්ගේ මුල් අත්විවරම ක්‍රීඩා දිවියේ හදාගන්නේ කොහොමද කියලා. මොකද සැලැස්මක් නැතිව තමයි සමහර දරුවන් දැරියන් ක්ෂේත්‍රයට එන්නේ. ඒකම ප්‍රතිවාදීන්ගේ වාග් ප්‍රහාර හමුවේ හැසිරුණු හැටි මේකට අඩංගු බොහෝ දේ. ස්ලෙජින් කියන කොටසට ඉස්සෙල්ලා මුහුණ දෙන්න පිරිස අතරින් කණ්ඩායමක් තමයි අර්ජුනගේ කණ්ඩායම. එතකොට මම ඇත්තටම මේ ඔක්කොම මේකේ කියන්න ගියොත් එimhe මේ පොත ඔබට කියවන්න තියෙන මේ ආධ්‍යාත්මික ආසක්ත බව නැති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ නිසා මම ඔය සාරාංශයක් විතරයි කිව්වේ එහෙන් මෙහෙන් හොයලා. මේ ඉංග්‍රීසි පරිවර්තනය මේ ඔබට පේනවා මෙතන තියෙනවා. එතකොට ඒ ගැනත් ඔබේ අවධානය යොමු කරන්න. ඉංග්‍රීසියෙන් කියවන අයට ඉතාමත්ම රසවත්ව ඉංග්‍රීසි භාෂෙන් ලියලා ඇති. සිංහල පොත විශේෂයෙන්ම මේ මගේ අතේ තියෙන සිංහල අපේ අනාගත ක්‍රිකට් ක්‍රීඩකයන්ට මේක නැතුවම බැරි අත්පොතක් වෙනවා සිකුරුයි. මේකෙන් පස්සේ අපේ අනිත් ක්‍රිකට් තරුත් අපේ භාෂෙන් සිංහල භාෂාවෙන් තම ජීවිතය අකුරු කරයි කියලා හිතනවා. මේක රැල්ලක් වුණොත් ඒක හරිම සුබවාදී බව කිව යුතුයි. අවසන් වශයෙන් රොෂාන් මහානාමගේ කතාව ගැන මගේ කියවීම තමයි ඕක. කුඩා ක්‍රිකට් ප්‍රේමී ලපටියෙක්, අංකුර ක්‍රීඩකෙක්, පාසල් ක්‍රිකට් තරුවක්, ජාතික මට්ටමේ වීර තරුවක්, ජාත්‍යන්තර තලයේ ජයගත් අද්විතීය ක්‍රිකට් තරුවක්, පසු කලෙක ICC විසින් පිළිගත් ජගත් ක්‍රිකට් තරග තීරකවරයෙක්. සෑහෙන කාලයක් තිස්සේ ඔහු තරග තීරකවරයෙක් වශයෙන් කටයුතු කරා. අපි අහලා තිනවා මේකේ ඇතුළත් කරුණුත් සමහර ඒවා ඇත්තටම ඔහු ඉතාමත් දැඩිසේ විනය පවත්වාගත් තරග තීරකවරයෙක්. සමහර ක්‍රීඩකීන් ඔහුට තිබෙන නොකැමැත්ත පිළිබඳවත් එහෙම් මෙහෙම් මෙහි සටහන් වෙලා තිනවා. ඔහු තරග තීරක වශයෙන් ඉතාමත් දැඩි තීරණ, දැඩි දඬුවම් දුන්න කෙනෙක්. එකක් තමයි ලෝකයේ ක්‍රිකට් ක්‍රීඩාවේ මහත්මා ගතිය රැක බලා ගැනීම තමයි ඔහුට පැවරිච්ච රාජකාරිය. ඔහු ඒක දේවකාරයකටත් වැඩිය උතුම් කොට සලකා කරපු ආකාරය අනිවාර්යෙන් මේ පොතේ සනිටුහන්. ඒ වගේම අපි මොනතරම් අල්ප මාත්‍ර මට්ටමක්ද සුළු මට්ටමේ බාහිර මතු පිටක්ද අතපත ගන්න කියලා ඔබට දැනේ ක්‍රිකට් ක්‍රීඩාවේ. වෘත්තීය මට්ටමේ ක්‍රිකට් ක්‍රීඩාවේ, ජාත්‍යන්තර ක්‍රිකට් ක්‍රීඩාවේ මට වුණත් ඒ తত্ত্বය සැබවින්ම මමත් ලැජ්ජාවට සහ පසුබෑමකට මම දන්නේ කොච්චර පොඩ්ඩක්ද කියන එක මැනවින් ඒත්තු ගන්නවට මම රොෂාන්ට මගේ ස්තුතිය පිරිනමනවා. කොටිම ඔහුගේ පෞරුෂයට අද ජාතික මට්ටමේ ක්‍රිකට් බලා ගන්න එන්න කියන තැනැත්තා බවට පත් වෙන තරම් ඔහුට ඉල්ලුමක් ඇවිත් ඒ ආරාධනය කරන වාතාවරණයක් අද සැකසিলা. එයමයි මම හිතන්නේ ප්‍රතිරූපයක් බවට පත් වීම. ඒ අසහායත්වය එයමයි, ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨත්වය එයමයි, විශිෂ්ටත්වයත් එයමයි. රොෂාන් මහනාමගේ ස්වයං චරිත අපදානයේ ඔබේ චරිතයේ හිදස් ආයු වායු පිරියම් කරන මාර්ගෝපදේශී නවකතාවක් බවට පත් වේවා කියලා ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනවා. දැන් මෙතෙන් සිට ඉතින් මේ පොත කියවලා ඒ දැනුම කොච්චර කිව්වත් දැනුම හැමදාම අත්‍යවශ්‍යයි අපිට. අපි හැමදාම දන්නේ නැහැ. අපි දන්නේ නොදන්නා බව පමණයි. මේක කියවට පස්සේ අපි දන්න ක්‍රිකට් හුඟක් පඬිතුයෝ විශේෂයෙන්ම මේ අන්තර්ජාලයේ ඉන්නවා. ඔය සමාජ මාධ්‍ය ජාලවල ඉන්නවා. ඒගොල්ලෝ විශේෂයෙන්ම කියන්නේ රස්සාවක් නැතුව රස්සාවක් වෙනුවෙන් මාධ්‍ය කරන රස්සාවක් සොයාගන්න බැරුව මාධ්‍යට රස්සාවට ආපු අයට ක්‍රිකට් පිළිබඳව හොයනවනම් මෙන්න පොත. කියවලා තමන් ක්‍රිකට් පිළිබඳව විවේචනය කරන්න. මේකේ හොඳම දේ තමයි උගන්වලා තියෙන එක. ක්‍රීඩකයාව ඔහුගේ පෞද්ගලිකත්වය නොවේ විවේචනය කළ යුත්තේ ඔහු කරන වැරද්ද පමණයි. අපි එහෙම කරනවද කියන ප්‍රශ්නාර්ථය ඔබට මේ පොත ඔස්සේ නැවත නැවතත් ඔබවම අධ්‍යයනය කරගත හැකි. රොෂාන්ට සුබ පතනවා සහ මම හිතනවා ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ ක්‍රීඩා සාහිත්‍යයට, ක්‍රිකට් සාහිත්‍යයට හොඳ නව හැරවුම් ලක්ෂයක් මේ පොත ඔස්සේ ලැබෙනු නොඅනුමානයි. මගේ කතාව අසා සිටියාට බොහොම ස්තුතියි. ජයම පමණයි.
Up next to address you all is the co-author of tonight's launching book. He is a proud student of St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia, captained college and represented Sri Lanka under 19s and even played club cricket for many first-class clubs, including the SSC. Professionally, he has over 10 years of experience at John Keel's Hotels and currently heads operations at Cinnamon Red. Academically, just as sound as he is in sports and his career, he has a degree in economics from the University of Colombo and an MBA from the PIM. He is a passionate writer and an avid reader, and this is his first official publication. He is none other than Mr. ROSHAN Peiris. Over to you, ROSHAN.
Thank you, Dasuni, for those kind words. My dad, Mr. Indranath Peiris, Mr. ROSHAN Mahanama and the family, distinguished invitees. It is an absolute pleasure to stand here today and speak a few words at this memorable occasion. For me, ROSHAN Mahanama was always an idol. Being a right-handed top-order batsman, like myself, I resonated with his patience, style, and elegance at the wicket. I recall many sad moments when he would face some of the best attacks in the world, the likes of Wasim, Waka, Glenn McGrath, etc., and get out sometimes cheaply. Also, sometimes my heart would go out when he would bat for long and be taken out with some serious cramps, which I later, through interacting with him, only found out the reason why. He was a brilliant fieldsman, definitely generations ahead of his time, and I really wish the quality of the production and the quality of the screens were better back then so that we could have enjoyed those moments in high definition like we do now. In a day and age where most of the off-field comments related to cricketers are scandalous or depressing in nature, I have always heard positive feedback and comments in the cricketing fraternity that Roshan Mahanama was nothing but a gentleman and a true ambassador of the sport. I always made a mental note to try and engage with Roshanaya if I ever got the chance. And the opportunity presented itself at a function at work, and I'm truly glad for that opportunity. A couple of the seniors in my management team were actually contemplating getting a professional to do the moderation for that event that we had, and I'm really thankful that they didn't, or this opportunity or even this book may not have been a reality. From the pre-event meeting itself, I understood what a professional he was. He came 5 minutes before the time he was supposed to. He came with a list of notes, well prepared, and spoke to the point. And very fortunately, I had spent some time preparing myself. So I think that discussion was a good start for all of us, and we made a connection at that juncture. This paved the way for me to take one of the best risks that I have. While socializing afterwards, I inquired about purchasing his first book, Retired Hurt, simply because I, as a reader, collect a lot of autobiographies and wanted to add that to my collection. And I was sad to find out that it was not available. He was so gracious. I mean, he had only known me for a short while, but he offered to give me the only copy that he had at home, which was his, to read and return. And even though I did not have the boldness at that time to offer my services for the next book, I did text him and thank him for his time, and then mention that if he ever did consider rewriting and republishing the book, because he mentioned that a common request was that a lot of people wanted this book, I said I'll be happy to help in any capacity. I never really thought that that would lead the way for me to be the shadow author for this edition. Roshanaya took a risk with me for sure. I am well read maybe, but I'm not an experienced author. I'm not someone who has published books, and for him, with his personality, with his character, with his repertoire, I'm sure with one call he could have got the best of local authors or international authors at his disposal. So I'm truly thankful, Roshanaya, for giving me this opportunity, and I hope that I have done justice to your story. Growing up, my ambition was to play cricket for Sri Lanka. I gave it everything at that point, and even when I toured junior nationals, I thought that this dream would be a reality. However, that dream was cut short for unforeseen reasons, and I fell back on a more traditional path, educating myself and joining the corporate world. Through this experience of writing the book, I have managed to get as close as possible to this dream that I left behind. Simply because that when writing this book, unlike a traditional piece where you would narrate an experience you yourself had, or something that you witnessed, I had to become Roshan Mahanama in character to bring out the story that he narrated. That is not easy, because like maybe an actor is used to getting into character to portray the individual that he or she depicts in a movie, I had to feel certain moments, certain incidents, live those moments, live those games like Mr. Roshan Mahanama did. And as a fan who idolized him, living these moments in my mind when he narrated that story to me was far from easy, and it was a transformational experience indeed, because I felt like some of the moments of joy, some of the moments of pain, that I was actually there living it myself. Today I am so fortunate and proud to say that he and the family are like family to me. This is definitely a more fulfilling experience than just partnering on the book, and I am grateful that we engage almost daily on personal and official matters. Roshan, I thank you so much for the opportunity. You didn't have to take a risk with me on this. It is your life story, and most individuals would have banked on experience and maturity for this type of project. To the audience and the potential readers out there, I can guarantee you that this story is worth reading. It will resonate with you on multiple levels, and I'm sure it will leave you inspired like it did inspire me. You do not need to be a cricketing fan to read this book or enjoy it. It is a story of an individual who faced immense challenges on multiple fronts and rose beyond everything to achieve the best at every juncture. Moreover, it is a story of someone who never compromised on his values and chose sometimes to walk away and be true to his conscience rather than turn a blind eye or stay in it for social or material gain. The reader will definitely understand what it means to be retired hurt sometimes, but also appreciate the turnaround of enjoying the best view of the game. Roshan, I hope you can bat long and deep in this second innings to its full potential. Please stay not out for as long as possible for all of us. Thank you, and God bless you all.
I'd actually like to call up Mr. Ashan Piris back on stage because we've got a small token of appreciation that will be given by Mr. Roshan Mahanama as well. Thank you very much, Ashan Piris, for your hard work throughout the past few months, for authoring this magnificent book. Your hard work has finally come to light, and I hope you enjoy this. I think he truly deserves another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Up next is another book review, which will be more of a question and answer session done by Andrew Fidel Fernando. Andrew Fidel Fernando is a renowned sports journalist and writer and is also the winner of the Gratian Prize for the year 2020. I'd now like to invite Mr. Andrew as well as Mr. Roshan Mahanama on stage for the question and answer session.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Roshan, for having me here as well and for inviting me. This is such a thrill for me. You know, I was pretty young when the '96 World Cup happened, a couple of years into primary school. You know, you were absolutely one of my favorite fielders. That's the thing I think remember most. So it's a huge thrill for me to be here at the launch of this book. And I'll just say a very, very quick few words on the book itself. Roshan was kind enough to forward an advance copy to me. And yeah, it was just a fascinating read from start to finish. I think what really struck me about the book was how much your love for the game kind of dripped from every page. You know, a lot has been said about you know, the terms of your retirement and how perhaps you felt a little bit hard done by, but your return to the match as a return to the game as a match referee. And you know, match referees are kind of one of the most misunderstood or little understood kind of creatures in the world game, I think, because a lot of fans and even a lot of journalists, I've been covering cricket for a number of years, don't understand exactly what the role entails, and this book is something, through many anecdotes, lays all of that out, and is incredibly insightful and informative. But I wanted to quickly get to some questions that the book raised for me. One of the most, I guess, fascinating parts of the book was the start, actually. You started off in Dehiwala, living in Dehiwala, but soon enough you moved to Ratmalana, and there you encountered someone who would be a former, future teammate, and I'll read just that section of the book just to give everybody else some context. So here's a reading. Our games were very competitive. This is talking about street cricket matches in Ratmalana, in the Ratmalana neighborhood. Especially when we were joined by a kid named Aravinda De Silva, who used to live up the road. Ari was a year older than me, and at that stage, about the same height and size. Now I'm slightly taller, and he's marginally plumper. Even then, he could thump the ball ferociously and harder than anyone would expect from a kid of that age. What struck me from that passage was, decades later, the two of you would go on to score the only half centuries in one of the most important matches Sri Lanka in Sri Lankan cricket history, in that Eden Gardens semi-final. So I just wanted to ask you a little bit more about those early memories playing with Aravinda De Silva. What else do you remember from that time?
Andrew, let me first thank you for accepting the offer and being present here this evening. Aravinda and myself go back a long way, almost 45 years. We started off our careers by playing on the streets. We've had healthy rivalry. We've fought a number of times because both of us hated to get out. And it's been a memorable journey. Not only Aravinda, I need to mention about Asanka as well. It's pretty much similar with Asanka. We've played on the streets, and I can't imagine that two of my childhood friends were part of that 1996 World Cup winning team. As far as I'm concerned, Aravinda is the best. No offense to anyone who played prior to our era, but as far as I'm concerned, he's the best batsman that we've produced. There were times that both Aravinda and myself shared the same bat at school cricket. I used to use it for one of the games. He comes, collects it, goes and plays, and then returns it. One game sticks out, a school game where Nalanda was playing DS. In that particular game, both of us were approaching our 1,000 runs. As a schoolboy cricketer, what you wanted to achieve was getting 1,000 runs. Aravinda and DS batted first. Aravinda got 150 and he got the 1,000 first. But we batted the following day. I got a double 100 and I got my 1,000 runs. So we've had that rivalry as kids, and that has been one of the things that helped us to compete at the highest level as well. It was healthy rivalry. We were happy for each other. We would go, at least I would go to him if I needed help, guidance. So that's the kind of relationship that we built over the years.
Just sticking to that topic of Aravinda De Silva, through the book you kind of talk about your various relationships with teammates, with Arjuna Ranatunga. I think particularly through the latter half of your career, I think there was a little bit of tension, which you're very honest about. But whenever you write about Aravinda De Silva, there seems to be a lot of warmth. Can you talk about how that relationship developed once you got into the national team?
With Aravinda, we had a different friendship. Arjuna was the father figure. We had to have a leader like Arjuna handling those cricketers at the time. I can, without hesitation, say that we wouldn't have won a World Cup without having a leader like Arjuna who took up the challenge to the opposition. But there are times that you don't agree with your leader, but the leader or the captain is the captain. At the end of the day, you need to follow what we decide as a team, and whenever we cross the boundary rope, we wanted the best for the country. You would have realized I've mentioned that in the book. I don't want to take anything out of the book. I'll leave it up to the readers to come to a conclusion. After the 1994 tour to Sharjah, where I captained the team, our relationship not only with Arjuna but with some of the others. Aravinda was one of them who did not go on the tour. So they had other views. For me, what I thought was, if I'm called upon to do something for the country, I will do that. But collectively, if we do take a decision as a team, I will agree and stand by whatever decision that we take as a group. It was nothing serious in that sense. 1.5 years later or 2 years later, we ended up being world champions. Like in a family, there will be misunderstandings, there will be issues, but you should be manly enough to sort those issues and work towards the goal of the team. But with Aravind, Asanka and a few of the others, I've had a closer relationship because we played a lot of school cricket against each other, which we developed over the years.
Now, I have to ask you about that Eden Gardens match. One of my absolute favorites, by the way. I have vivid memories of watching that game. You describe it as that 58 retired hurt as your proudest individual achievement in limited overs cricket. Obviously, it was something that was almost surreal. You know, watching it on TV, it felt surreal. There were so many people in that ground, 100,000 fans. You write in the book about the intense humidity, which eventually took a big toll on you. Could you just set the scene for us? So we're Sri Lanka 35 for 3 when you walk in. Can you just walk us through your 58 not out, how you compiled it, watching Aravind at the other end, eventually building a partnership with Arjuna Rantunga. Just talk us through that.
I was the utility player in the team, although I had opened for a period of time. During that World Cup, I was batting down the order. The order was structured. I was down to bat at number 7. But whenever they felt that somebody had to come out and see through a particular face, I was one of them that they looked towards. In that World Cup semi-finals, it's a memorable game, certainly not only for me, for all of us. Going into the grounds, there would have been about 60,000 outside the grounds and about 80,000 inside the grounds before start of play, and it was packed. I was not down to bat at number 5. I was down to bat at number 7. We lost both openers in the first over. It was Sanath and Kalu that we were banking on leading up to the tournament and even during the tournament. So took everyone by surprise, and I still remember there was pandemonium in the changing room. People were going up and down, and someone came and asked me whether I could bat, and I said, don't ask me whether I could bat, tell me if you want me to bat. I was getting ready. I was getting the help of my teammates to give me the equipment. I was half dressed when Asanka got out. So here I am walking into the center, one of the most important games of our lives. That was the first time that Sri Lanka had made it to the knockout stage of the tournament. And Indians, I think, were one of the favorites as well. Fortunately for me, when I went there, I was only a mere spectator on the other side. Aravind and myself, we put on 50 plus runs. I think he would have got about 45 runs. So that gave me enough time to gather my thoughts, to plan, prepare, and then continue batting. If you ask me for the key learnings of the 1996 World Cup, I would say teamwork, teamwork, teamwork. But there were 2 other factors as well. Second was when someone was called upon to do something for the team, they never said it's not my duty or not my role. They would put the hand up and say, yes, I'll do it. One good example is Kumar Dharmasena would always bowl in the first 15 overs. So they never said it's not my role. We will say we'll do it if you need us to do that for the team. And the third one is that we played to our strength. We did not play to the strength of the opposition. Again, for example, World Cup finals, the current Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, had a discussion with the think tank and told the guys that we should bat first if we win the toss. But what we did was to play to our strength, because we knew that we had the batting to chase down any total, and we batted second. So that World Cup semi-finals was so memorable for us, because that was the first time that Sri Lanka made it to a final and ended up as being the world champions as well.
Yeah, and on that final, I think it was the first time any team batted second and won a final in a ODI World Cup. So absolutely, right. You were very bold decision making based on Sri Lanka's strengths. One of my, I've mentioned this before, but one of my absolute favorite things about your career as a whole was your fielding. I think everyone remembers you for that, whether you're fielding in the infield or the outfield. You were a live wire everywhere. Absolute box office to watch. And I think head and shoulders the best fielder in the team until maybe very late in your career when, the likes of younger Upul Chandana and so on came on. But in an era where I guess there wasn't so much professional training, where perhaps Sri Lanka lacked a little bit of the infrastructure around coaching, how is it that you motivated yourself to be such a fine and consistent fielder for so many years?
The motivation is right in front of me. My first coach, he was a strict disciplinarian. He made sure that we really worked hard, not only on our game, but discipline as well. He would never compromise on discipline. Cricket is a game of disciplines. I was one of them who did not bowl a lot. That was because I was captaining all the age groups. I did not know when to bowl myself or take myself off. And I realized that I need to really work hard on my fielding, and we were taught, apart from my parents, my first coach has been a huge influence in terms of getting us to go and field anywhere. I used to field in the slips, short leg, silly mid-off, point, deep mid-wicket, long on, you name it, we would go and do that. To do that, we had to really work hard. Personally for me, when I used to go for training, I would plan my 2 hours. If I was not doing anything, I'll get someone to give me catches. I want to take 100 catches a day. I'll keep at the stump, throw at the stump, and make sure that I worked hard on my fielding, because out of the 3 disciplines, I was not good at one, or I sacrificed because of I was leading my school team. So I knew that I had to work hard on those disciplines. And there were times that I was in the national team merely for my fielding.
I think from that reply also comes through a little bit of the method that you put into your training. And I think every time I've interviewed other former teammates of yours, and whenever they talk about you, they talk about how you were one of the most kind of regimented and methodical people, not just teammates, just people that they've ever come across. And I guess it makes a lot of sense then that you went in to a long career as a match referee. There was a little bit of internal board wrangling in terms of like nominating you as a match referee. SLC was kind of responsible for that. But once you became a match referee, did it seem like a natural transition for you, the way that you were wired as a person and as a player?
Not really, Andrew. It was just a challenge. I believe in taking up challenges in life. I did not have the background to be a match referee, although quite a lot of people who were close to me felt that I might be a good match referee. I had not refereed a single domestic game. I was coaching the Sri Lanka A team, quit on a matter of principle, went to the board, BCCSL at the time, and late Bandula Warnapura asked me, what are you doing? And I said, I'm on the lookout for an opportunity. And he said, I've just got an email. can I nominate you? And I said, by all means. He wanted me to send my CV. I sent the CV. The ICC was kind enough to give me an opportunity to work in the Under-19 World Cup in 2004. I have gone into detail in the book. There was someone who was there before me. He was obviously upset. I can imagine I would have been upset as well if someone was selected ahead of the other one. And from his point of view, he would have thought that there would have been a bit of influence for me to be included in that Under-19 World Cup. And I would have preferred if that gentleman knew my character, knew about me, and figured out how I got the opportunity to work in that Under-19 World Cup. That was the start in Bangladesh. Since then, I really had to work hard. It was only Sri Lanka who had 2 on a panel of 7 elite panel match referees. I personally feel it was purely for what Ranjan Madugalle had done that they looked at another Sri Lankan. I thought to myself 2 things. One, I can't let down Ranjan. He had set high standards. And the other was to leave the doors open for a fellow Sri Lankan. I know Ranjan would have got all his training at Ceylon Tobacco, but for me, I had no training. My biggest strength was having a father who used to swear by the training that he got at Unilever. And I used to go to him purely because as a kid, I saw top corporates used to go to him for advice and guidance. And here I thought, I have someone at home, I need to make use of it. I mentioned before, I don't know whether you were here, but there's this saying, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So I had to do all the work, but I have related most parts of those challenges in the book. Certainly it was no easy task. I had to adapt. And one of the things that I learned being in the ICC is if you're doing something, to try and leave a legacy and go. I did not know that I had left behind a legacy playing school cricket and being part of a member of the World Cup winning team. But I just thought I need to work hard to establish myself and leave a mark in the ICC. And I'm sure if you check with anyone, I did that and did that to the best of my ability. And I left the ICC on my own terms, where a lot of people would not leave a job like that for prestige and money.
Yeah, on legacy, I think you mentioned a couple of times in the book the checklist that you kind of came up with in terms of checking venues and making sure that everything was in order. And I think Ranjan Madugalle since kind of has taken that on and passed that on to other match referees as well. So one of the things I found really fascinating about your time as a match referee were your run-ins with Andy Flower, which you mentioned a couple of anecdotes about that. He's also known to be someone who's quite methodical in his work. Obviously, was director of cricket for England for a long time while you were the match referee. Could you kind of tell us a little bit more about those incidents? Not just about Andy Flower, but in general, kind of when you had these disagreements with big figures in the sport and with coaches and directors.
There were 2 coaches or team directors which really made our lives quite hard. Unfortunately, both of them were from England. They are not English, but maybe the fact that they were working for a strong board, they felt that they could bully. Looking at me, Andrew, you might think that I'm soft, but I feel what matters is being strong and being strong inside. I still remember there were 2 incidents. One was, I'm going to keep it very short because we have elaborated about it in the book, where there was a court behind in South Africa, and the England camp felt that we did not follow. When I say we, the match officials did not follow the set guidelines, which wasn't the case. They complained to the ICC. Their tone was that we were biased to the South African team, and they had an internal inquiry about the incident. I still have the notes with me where I had a sleepless flight. It was an 8-hour flight coming back from South Africa, coming back home. and I had to really make a note of the sequence of events so that I could send it to the ICC. They decided to have an independent commission to inquire about the incident, and I can proudly say that the ECB, from what I was told, that withdrew some of the accusations, and the two people who were part of that inquiry, one was Sir Clive Lloyd, and the other one was a retired judge from Ireland, and they felt that it was not our fault, but actually it was a technical fault. That was one, but I had a series of emails, letters, and they really made my life quite hard. And the other one was a World Cup game in 2011, where England played either Ireland or India in the
group stage. Was it the Ireland match or the South Africa match which they tied?
No, I think it was in Bangalore, where England played India in Bangalore, and England played Ireland in Bangalore. Ireland chased 300 odd and won. Yeah. From what I can remember, we were entrusted upon certain work, and then we had to follow and do what we had to do. But some of them were not happy that we were following certain things we had to do, like sending in an overage charge, or somebody knocked the stumps, where we had to report and have a formal code of conduct hearing, or send a charge sheet. And I still remember people walking into our room and saying there are more things to worry about rather than fining somebody, or it's been an excellent game of cricket or so on. But our responsibility is to protect the game. There are millions of children who follow these cricketers, follow these games on TV, and what matters is what these kids see on TV, and we had to do our job. And I still remember, I have those letters as well, telling some of these guys, until you start respecting our role, it's going to be very hard. We need to respect each other, otherwise let's have these battles.
Something that really comes through, although you describe, the various disagreements or the conflicts that you had in the role, is also, your absolute love for being able to have the best seat in the house, or the best view of the game, as you say in the book. What were the kind of, could you pinpoint a couple of matches that were especially fun for you to referee, or especially interesting for you?
Certainly it's not fun really, but what I did was I knew that I had to stay focused, so I would always look at technical moves that the teams would take. I felt that I need to be part of that game, because sometimes it can be boring being in a air-conditioned room. I still remember the umpires used to say that, oh, you sit in an air-conditioned room and write about our performance. And I used to tell them that that's a choice that they made. No one told them that they should be standing out in the middle in the hot sun. But officiating the Champions Trophy final, I think it was in 2009. And my last international game as a match referee was the first ever day-night test match. And those games were very memorable and sticks out in my mind.
Towards the end of the second volume of the book, you devote quite a lot of pages to talking about the current state of Sri Lankan cricket, and particularly Sri Lankan cricket administration. However, you've now, more recently become part of the technical advisory committee under Aravinda de Silva. I think you've been in that role for well over a year now. What's it been like being involved, in this brand new role, I guess a third role for you in cricket, and has it changed your views of Sri Lankan cricket administration at all?
Andrew, we've been involved close to 1 year. Reluctantly, I got involved with the advisory committee. I need to remind everyone that we have been working as advisors on an advisory capacity. We don't have the authority or the control to make some of those changes. And the reason why I decided to get involved was we were told that they will be looking at changing the cricket board constitution after they changed the sports law. So that was one of the reasons that I decided to be part of this committee, but I feel that it's very difficult for us to work in a committee where we don't have authority. So that's something that has been very frustrating for me. I feel that we could do a lot more. One good example is that they've got the LPL going on, but we have no involvement, we have no input. And I can proudly say that if I go to Pakistan next month to officiate in the PSL, that's my 20th franchise league. And there will not be anyone who would have that experience officiating in as many tournaments or games of these franchise leagues. But sadly, we have no input towards the LPL. So these are areas that we are battling, because we were told that we will be consulted, we will be given the authority to look into cricketing affairs, cricketing matters. And LPL is one of those important tournaments where we have no say in it.
Just staying on that topic, and this is my final question, and let's do a bit of fantasy kind of wish list stuff now. If there are 3 changes that, you know, if you had absolute authority and you could make it happen to Sri Lankan cricket in particular, what might those be? I see you've come prepared.
Not really, Andrew. The current sports minister was the fourth sports minister that I met personally. When I met the first sports minister, I had everything in my head, but then I realized that I need to be prepared. Generally, I'm quite prepared. You can read for yourself. The first, I'm sure you're young enough to read.
Yeah, change sports law is the top one here, it goes on to say, but in my opinion, there should be a separate law, and it should not be part of the separate cricket law, and it should not be part of sports law. Change the cricket board constitution, and perhaps install a cricket committee. The selectors should not come under the sports minister, and do a forensic audit. It goes on like that.
So yeah. I've got the full list by any chance if they want. That's only my view,
yeah.
And maybe the others might have different views. But I'm prepared because I love this game so much. I stand on my own feet because of the game. We owe so much to the game. Sadly, we can't contribute in a positive manner.
Yeah. Can I just tag on one final question, just because your list kind of got me thinking. A lot of those happen to be about kind of separating politics and cricket under the current sports law. Obviously, it comes under the auspices of the sports minister. Can you talk a little bit about that? Why do you feel that that's important to have that separation?
It's purely because cricket, I'm sure, must be in the top 20-25, which brings in foreign exchange to the country. Everyone wants to get involved in an honorary capacity. They fight to get into the board, where quite a lot of the cricketers stay away. General mindset is that cricketers might not be good administrators, but then you see everyone, either they are into big businesses, or they're managing their businesses, or they have moved up the ladder. There will be a sports minister, from my point of view, who wouldn't have held a bat, but until very recently, he had the final say in approving the players. So I personally feel that shouldn't be the case. You appoint a set of selectors, and then you should let them do the job. If it's through the sports ministry, unfortunately, that's what the sports law says, and these are things that needs to be changed. I don't know whether they will ever agree to do that. In India, it's slightly different, where it doesn't come under their sports minister, but I think they have a separate law for cricket.
Thank you so much, Roshan, for speaking so forthrightly. Sorry for springing a surprise question at you at the end. This is what happens when you invite a journalist. So yeah, thank you very much. I think we'll end the interview segment there. appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Andrew. Up next, Mr. Roshan Mahanama will pay tribute by garlanding a photo of his late father, Mr. Upali Mahanama. Mr. Upali Mahanama has undoubtedly been the father figure and pillar of strength throughout his illustrious cricketing career. Now we move on to the presentation of the first copies of the book, and the first copies will be presented to his first coach, Mr. Nelson Mendes, as well as his mother, Mrs. Swarna Mahanama. Mr. Mendes, as well as Mrs. Mahanama, if you could come on stage. Undoubtedly, these two figures have been through thick and thin throughout his cricketing career to mold him into the astonishing and impeccable cricketing personality that he is today. Mr. Nelson Mendes is fondly referred as the cricket coach and a prefect of games and a master in charge of cricket at Nalanda during the 70s, and has distinctions of nurturing as many as 26 national level cricketers for Sri Lanka. To wrap up the day's proceedings and to deliver the vote of thanks, I'd like to invite Ms. Ruvinya Mahanama, the youngest daughter of Mr. Roshan Mahanama, who has tirelessly been working on the social media front of this initiative, as well as proofreading and also supporting his father throughout the whole process. She is currently reading for her master's and also has a degree in maths and science and statistics from the University of London. Over to you, Ruvinya.
Mr. Nelson Mendes, Mr. Jonathan Allis, family, ladies and gentlemen. My sisters would agree with me when I say that Tata is our role model and mentor who always motivates, guides and helps us to be the best version of ourselves without compromising on honesty, integrity and other important values. Therefore, I'm honored to be delivering the vote of thanks at this memorable occasion. Mr. Jonathan Allis, thank you for accepting Tata's invitation to deliver the keynote address today. As you and Tata go a long way, your words of wisdom mean a lot to him. As most of you would know, my father is a perfectionist, a characteristic that can be equal parts endearing and annoying. He wants things to be done at that very moment and gets agitated when things don't go exactly according to his plan. Tata would rather call and ask for help than drop a text and wait for the other person to reply. So I remember when he wants something from Ashan or Darshana, he calls them and says, Malli, I'm extremely sorry to trouble you. I might be becoming a pain, but I want a small favor from you. I know it is not easy, but Ashan and Darshana, hats off to both of you for working with Tata. Thank you for helping him launch his updated book. Tata could not have asked for a better duo to help him with this relaunch. A warm thank you to Ashan's wife Demi and friends in Australia who helped with the first round of proofreading. When it was my turn to proofread the book, I asked my sister's boyfriend Dinette to help me, as I was busy with some exams. So on a personal note, thank you Dinette for the help extended to proofread the book. Uncle Sanjeeva, thank you for the support given to proofread the book for one last time. Your inputs were invaluable. A big thank you to Mr. Asoka Gunatilaka for translating the book into Sinhala. The trust Tata placed on you to do justice to the retelling of Tata's experiences has not been misplaced. We are glad that the book will not remain within a limited circle of English readers. Thank you, Mr. Callum Srimal and Mr. Andrew Fernando, for reviewing the book and speaking a few words today. Let me also take this opportunity to thank my brother-in-law, Kalindu Ayya, for helping to coordinate this book launch, Buddhini Aki and Harindu Ayya for organizing this event, and Dasini for readily agreeing to be the compeer of today's event. To everyone else who extended support to us in numerous ways, though we may not be able to thank you individually, your efforts are much appreciated. When Retired Hurt was launched several years ago, we were still perhaps a little too young to grasp the gravity of the undertaking, and rather the honest retelling of a glorious period in Tata's life. Reading Retired Hurt to the best view of the game, I feel our memories are somehow entangled within the pages of this retelling, in the highs and the lows and the sacrifices Amma and Tata have made along the way. This only makes Tata larger than life in some ways, but also very much our father, pushing us gently but firmly in the right direction while never losing faith in our own ability to make our mark in the world. Tata, thank you for sharing your story with us. May all of you be blessed. Good night.
Thank you, Ravinya. Before we wrap up, I'd like to remind the audience and all of those watching online that the English copies of this book can be obtained from all 26 branches of Sarasavi Bookshop, Samayavardhana Bookshop, Sadeepa Bookshop, Samurdha Bookshop, Expo Graphics Palavatta, Makeen's Bookshop, the Jaya Bookshop, Poo Balasingham Bookshop in Jaffna, as well as Vasana Bookshop Dankotua, Wisdom Bookshop Vattala, and Gratnakula Kotrava. And you can also order this book online via brightlight.lk. Now, the Sinhala version of this book can also be obtained via Sarasavi Bookshop, all 26 branches, Samayavardhana Bookshop, Sadeepa Bookshop, Samurdha Bookshop, Expo Graphics Palavatta, Makeen's Bookshop, Jaya Bookshop, Surya Bookshop, Sanka Bookshop, Vasana Bookshop Dankotua, Wisdom Bookshop Vattala, Grankola Kottava, Ganga Bookshop Nitambua, Malaka Traders Matale, Sri Lanka Bookshop Kegol, and Victory Bookshop Avisavela. Also reminding you that this book is available online via brightlight.lk. And that concludes the day's proceedings. Have a very pleasant night, and don't forget to have your refreshments outside the hall. Good night.